Hey everyone, I wanted to do a quick screencast of editing a single image from one of my recent storm chases. And just to kind of give you a basic idea of what I do, which is just, some basic stuff from the raw file to adding a few layers of contrast to really bring out, the color and depth and contrast of an image. So this is the image I chose. It's from near Tulia, Texas, last week, and as you can see, it's really dark. If you look up at the histogram, it's not good. I probably shot this handheld, or I had it on my tripod trying to get a lightning strike, and it's at f/16, and it wasn't ideal. I should have increased the shutter speed or brought the f-stop down. However, this is it. It's dark. As you can see, though, it's plenty sharp, so that's a good thing. And also, I shot it with my Sony A7R III. Which means I can bring up the exposure and it's not going to be a problem. So the first thing I'm going to do is do a lens correction, and I shot it with my Sigma 14-24, so we fixed the lens. And now I'm going to do kind of balance the horizon here just a little bit with the crop tool. Now, one thing I don't like about this is I feel like, to me, this image, this is the focal point here. This is what I really like, and I have a lot of gray up here. So when I have something like that, I will do a 16:9 crop and make sure that my horizon is level. But I'm going to do a 16:9 crop like that. And so now my image becomes a little bit more focused on this inflow band and the hail coming down here. Now I have a lot of shortcut keys I use. Like I select exposure. If you click on exposure, you can modify it with your plus/minus keys. So I tend to always have exposure there. So I'm going to bring up my exposure a good amount. So I did it up to 1.3 here, as you can see. And maybe I can bring my highlights down a smidge and the shadows up. So this is actually pretty good. If you look in there, there's really no noise, not very much noise even going up that much. The Sony's a really great camera. So that's kind of my basic start with the raw file. And now we're going to open up in Photoshop. Okay, now we're in Photoshop. The first thing I see are some dust spots. I can get rid of them later, but I'm going to just get rid of them now. I'm going to go through with the spot healing brush, and I have it selected content aware up here. And I almost forgot that I'd even need to tell you that because I have had it set to that for so long. You can see a faint one here. Dust spots are a huge sign of the fact that you didn't take your time to edit your image. So whenever I have dust spots show up later and I forgot, I feel really bad about it. If you can really sit around and make sure dust spots are gone, it's going to really help your image look even that much better. So that's kind of a rough pass. Dust spots could show up more as you add contrast to it. Now, depending on what kind of image I was doing, I could simply, I like to do luminosity mask. So I have this Tony Kuiper action that creates all these luminosity masks. But I'm not going to do that. This is going to be real simple. I'll do a luminosity mask one later. I'm going to duplicate my layer so I kind of keep this base one free. And I'm going to go up to filter and camera raw filter. This has been a little bit more of, this is more of like shortcutty kind of things. I'll do a more complicated one later. But this image, the tonality is pretty flat and straightforward. I don't have areas that are really, really bright and really, really dark. So I'm just going to bring up my contrast a lot. And I might bring up the shadows a little bit here to keep them even. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to hit OK. So you can already see that we added some contrast. It looks pretty good, but I'm not done there. I really like to bring my images to kind of the edge, to really make them pop, make them look kind of, how I want them to look and how I felt when I was standing there. So I'm going to do even some more contrast here, and you can, and maybe bring the highlights down so the hail's not super bright, but not too much, because as you can see here, it starts adding this weird halo thing, so I don't want to do that actually. It's not even that bright. You can see our histogram here. We have so much room here where this isn't even blown out. So I'm going to bring my shadows up again. I might even bring up the exposure just a tad, maybe drop the highlights, but now you can see we have even more contrast to this. So we will make this one invisible. Now you see like what we started with, and then that one looked pretty good, but now Now we're looking even better. Now we've got some really good colors popping just by adding contrast, like multiple layers of contrast. You even get colors to pop. You don't even have to add vibrance or saturation. As you notice, we haven't even done that yet. So I'm going to do another look for dust spots because sometimes that contrast can bring them out. There's one there. I think it's actually pretty good. Believe it or not, I actually blew out my sensor this day before I was out shooting, and I think it helped. So that looks pretty good. I don't think that I really need to do another one, but I'm going to just do it for the fun of it and see what it looks like. It looks pretty good. It looks really dark and moody to me. Maybe pop the shadow just a smidge. See, bring up the exposure, then it starts really blowing out stuff. So I really like it kind of dark and moody. Maybe like that. Maybe the highlights just a smidge. Actually, I'm just going to leave it like this. I'm going to show you one other trick. So I really like on the right side, I really like how it pops here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another layer, and what we're going to do is we're just going to look at bringing down the hail core a little bit. So I'm just going to bring my highlights down just for this area. I'm going to hit OK, and now I'm going to create a mask with this quick mask tool down at the bottom right, and then invert it, which is Command I. And what I can do is I can hit my brush tool, use the bracket keys to make it bigger, or you can go up here and change your size by using that. I'm going to come up here, I'm going to switch to white because I have a black mask and I want to paint in the effect we did, and I'm going to bring my opacity down to 30, and I'm going to sit here and just kind of paint a little bit in what we just did. Just at the top, because down here is where it started creating the halos. So as you can see, I did a little bit of that. You can see here we painted through our mask, and you can see if I make it invisible that we've just added in that. But I don't know how much I like it. So it actually doesn't look too bad. It makes it a little bit darker. I don't really see that it's got too much kind of haloing. I actually think it looks pretty good. So that's basically it. We just kind of targeted just this area using a quick mask, and that's a lot of what luminosity masking is like as well, and I'll show you that in another tutorial. The other thing we can do is if we think the foreground's too dark, we could do like a levels adjustment here. We could bring up this right side to bring up the grass a little bit, invert it, and then do the same thing where we just kind of paint in on this layer mask here, where now our foreground is a little bit brighter, not so dark, and that looks pretty good. So I really like that. I'm going to do is I do a really lame way of watermarking where I bring up a previous image and grab my watermark off of that. So I bring up my my other image, highlight the watermark from the other layer, paste it in here, and it's already white, and it actually looks really good up top. And that's it. A lot of people will argue with watermarks if you should have them or not. I used to never want them, but I think it's really good for kind of having your name out there. If an image does well or people see it, they know it's yours. I don't think there's any reason to have it thinking if people steal my photo, at least my name will be on it. It's really, really easy to get rid of this. I will even show you. I'm going to create a final layer here, and if I merge these two where this is on here, I can basically take my content aware and just go loop, and it's gone. So you can see how easy it is and basically how pointless it is unless you make your watermark gigantic, and I'm not going to do that. I like it just to be kind of an advertisement for my name. If someone steals my image, well, that's fine. So we can talk about that another day. Can't decide if I saw a lingering dust spot up top. I feel like there's something funny here. I'm just going to go ahead and fix it. Yeah, it was very faint. So I'm very anal about dust spots and little marks. And if I was really wanting this to be perfect, not in love with the leaning power lines, but they're not too bad. I would think about getting rid of them, but probably not. So that looks pretty good. So that's basically the final image. The other thing I would do is I use Raya Pro 3 which is a plugin you can buy online from this guy McIntyre, I believe, and it has a sharpening export that's really, really important for posting online. So I'll do a quick resize to 2848 wide, 2048 wide, and it's going to sharpen and create a new file that's 2048 pixels wide, which is perfect for posting on Facebook, Twitter, your blog, and all that. So now you can see, if you zoomed in a lot, it's not going to look that great because it's been sharpened. It's not going to look like this if we zoom in. Like this looks better. That's really nice and sharpened. But this one is really pixelated, but that's because it's made for 2048. And it's going to look really sharp when you post it online. And then you just do a save as and save this as a JPEG somewhere on your computer. And that's it. So hopefully that was kind of interesting about how to just get a really nice, simple image edited with some contrast. And look, and I mean, there's some beautiful color here. We didn't even add any vibrance or saturation. It just looks perfect. When you have a flat raw file, you have to add contrast. You have to add layers of it to make it look like it did in real life, because this is not what it looked like. This is flat and a boring looking scene compared to what we actually saw. So adding all that in there really makes it look like what we witnessed that day. So hopefully that was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on another one.